You know, the stuff that we're working on is tournament based. It's not it's not about swing positions or angles or placement or whatever. It's all about what's gonna stand up under pressure, what's gonna be easiest for you to replicate. Because what you're working on now, you don't want to change for the rest of your life. You know, you want to be doing exactly the same thing, because the only way to get really good at something is to do it over and over again the exact same way, right? Once you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing, then trying to replicate it is the key. And we don't want to pick something that's complicated. We want to pick something that's really simple, right? If we pick something that's really simple to replicate, then that means it's probably going to hold up better under pressure than doing something that's complicated. So talk to me about your last few tournaments. What's going on? I noticed you switched back on the shaft. How did that experiment go?
I couldn't get used to it.
No?
I just couldn't, I don't know, I didn't like it. So I couldn't really have as much control almost.
Okay.
But then at the same time, I feel like I don't really have control right now with my driver.
Right.
That's been the hardest part, is getting off the tee with driver, 3-iron, 5-wood. Greens and regulation I've started to be better at. I feel like I've hit more the last few tournaments than I have been. I still need to improve, and around the greens and putting I've been solid.
Yeah.
I've been putting really well lately.
Yeah.
The only thing that's killing me is off the tee right now.
Yeah.
Not putting myself in the right positions, basically.
Yeah. The ball's coming off and you don't know which way it's going, or you're...
Yeah, well, I think it's just going to go right every time.
Yeah.
And then some will go left, I'll double cross at the top.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
It's almost guessing.
Sure. Yeah, and that sucks, because you don't want to be standing up on a tee box guessing.
Where is this one going to
Yeah, no, that's no good.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll definitely need to figure that out. How much thinking are you having to do on your swing? Except up here. When you get down into like these wedges or a mid-iron or whatever, are you having to think much about your mechanics, or are you
No, not really.
starting to get pretty natural?
Yeah, I just honestly, like, my focus during the tournament is just trying to have good timing and compressing the ball correctly.
Yeah.
I know where my lower irons and wedges are going to go.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's longer irons and drivers and
Yeah.
the tee is when I start thinking.
Okay. Well, the good news is it's going to be a little bit of thinking, but not much. We got to understand what to do with those clubs in comparison to the shorter clubs. I mean, if you've got a good handle on your shorter clubs, then we just got to figure out what's the right combination as you get into your longer clubs. So while you kind of warm up, I'm going to get TrackMan to set it up behind, just so that once we get to those longer clubs, especially, we have a little bit more numbers. So tell me about all your great shots. What has stood out lately where you're like, man, that was awesome?
The last tournament, I probably had like 103 yards and 105 yards, like probably more than 10 times.
Yeah.
And I don't think I missed outside 10 feet.
Okay, good.
I just hit like this knockdown 54.
Yeah.
And it was just dead straight and cutter, draw, and land, check, and spin right next to the pin.
Nice.
That one's been really good. Low irons, 9-iron, 8-iron. Been putting a lot of those close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, when we first started, really, which was about a month ago, kind of when we had our first session, mostly with your dad back here, just going, hey, look, what's the deal? What are we gonna do? Like, how do we actually play golf instead of play golf swing, right? I mean, you're moving into your summer tournament season and you're thinking about all this stuff, and it's way too much, right? And so you were not hitting really any greens, and you were really struggling because you put way too much pressure on your short game. I think driver at the time really wasn't that bad, but I think maybe what's happened is, since you've kind of got your swing changed, you're just not sure what's going on with the driver. But our goal is obviously for you to be able to compete as best you can and not have to think about all the mechanics of your golf swing. So what about really good tee shots? I mean, you've got to have had at least a couple in there somewhere.
Hole, Spanish Oaks very well.
I don't.
So hole 11.
What club is that, by the way?
This is
9. Okay.
Hole 11. It's this little dogleg right downhill.
Mm.
It's like 350.
Mm-hmm.
And I bogeyed 10, and it was a stupid bogey.
Mm.
Really bad wedge shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of frustrated. I was like, I'm hitting a driver here. And I just bombed one. Just absolutely killed it. Goes to the front of the green. Big birdie. I was like, well, that was the best driver I've ever hit.
Yeah, nice. Nice.
I'll have a few of those every round. And then the other ones are just like, how does that go that far right? Like, it just starts right and goes right. Like,
Yeah.
my path's good, but then it's, what I feel like it is. Like, it's a good path, and then my face is just open.
Yeah.
And so then I try to let it go more and scoot more to the target, and I just keep blasting them right. Take a stronger grip, same thing.
Now it's a straight, or does it slice? Does
it starts right and goes
and
right.
then it keeps going, yeah.
And then I'll hit one off the heel, like over the top, and then it will be just a full slice. But
Yeah, it's like your body trying to self-correct
Yeah.
and like somehow get it back in play. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's what you're gonna find in this game is there's kind of like optimization of physics with the driver. So like, yes, maybe hitting a draw, maybe hitting a lower spin draw, maybe launching it at a certain angle. There's a certain attack angle that produces a certain launch angle. Then you optimize the driver to produce a spin and all that good stuff, right? And that's, I mean, distance is really important in this game. Sometimes what you find, though, in the pursuit of that is your swing isn't quite the same when you do that. Like if you watch a lot of full swing mechanics of like long drive champions and stuff like that, a lot of times you change your move to optimize your driver, but then it kind of de-optimizes your iron play. And we want to try to make sure that you kind of have one swing thought, something that's automatic. You're always going to have good club head speed, so we just got to make sure that we are optimizing the equipment around your swing, not the other way. So I feel like if you're swinging really well with a 9 iron or 7 iron, and we just got to figure out as you get longer, does something change? Or is it the equipment that needs to change to match your swing better? So we'll look at that as well.
I feel like sometimes I compress it really well, and I think it's going to be really good, but then it just like kind of squirts out right. It doesn't really have anything behind it. It'll land short or something. I club up, and I felt like that was hit super well.
So let's move your target kind of more this direction, and we'll just kind of stay here on everything. So see the white flag at the end of the range? Let's kind of just use that as a general target. I mean, if you want to hit these clubs over toward that purple flag, that's okay. But, you know, the white flag is kind of where I want to end up ultimately with the driver. So, and then as you hit a shot, I just want your feedback. So you hit one like that, one a little left of target. What do you think happened there?
That one I feel like it started left, went left, so it's kind of double cross, maybe over the top.
Okay.
Smashing over here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then what do you do to fix that?
Just smash behind more, slow down.
Yeah.
Better timing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So right now you're starting to feel like there's a control mechanism back here, right? There's like this is this is, you know, straight. It's probably more in here a little bit. Over here, that's that little start left pull. Then you might chuck it way in here and then kind of send it out over. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then talk to me about the smash versus scoop. How's that feeling? Like, are you thinking about one more than the other, or?
I think more about smash than I do scoop.
Yeah. So you.
Because I feel like I sometimes start overdoing the scoop.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And then in the smash, have you figured out, you know, like let's say a pitching wedge is maybe gonna be like kind of smashed down here, whereas 5-iron's gonna be like more smashed up here. Figured that out.
Starting to kind of feel that.
Yeah.
Where 8-iron might form more on top than the driver's more.
Yeah, like earlier and behind you a little more. Yeah. All right, so go through your whole routine on this one. I think you've hit enough to kind of warm up. So go back behind. Show me your routine.
I usually just find a spot where I want the ball to start and where I can set my club down.
Straight, a little chunky. So what would happen? What would happen there? You think?
Maybe just a little too close to the ball.
Yeah.
Scoot away.
Yeah. So what about that one? A little thinner, a little bit more draw.
That one's like, I don't think that one was over the top. That one was just maybe a little rolly with my hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just kind of turned it over.
So when you set up, yeah, when you set up to hit a shot, do you visualize the ball coming out a certain way? I mean, you've made a transformation really with your swing, so sometimes it takes a while for you to see a certain shot. Like you might see, still in your mind's eye, you might still see a little draw, but it's not necessarily coming out like that. What do you see now when you set up to hit? Do you feel like a certain shot's going to come out?
Well, I feel like I see what I want to hit.
Yeah.
But then on other shots, I do feel like I kind of know where this one's going to go, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Or how it's going to come out, depending on lie or.
So what do you want to hit here? What kind of shot do you want to hit?
Hit a draw.
A little draw, okay. Yep. So what do you think happened there?
Flipped it with my hands.
Yeah. So it's probably a double. You probably
Yeah.
smashed a little down over and then also rolled it, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So what about that one?
Just a flush, open face.
Yeah. So that one there was actually pretty much dead straight shot.
Started right.
So you were aimed over there,
Yeah.
right? And which is, natural. You're trying to hit a draw, so why not aim a little bit right? But one thing that you are doing in your setup routine is you're kind of coming in and you're getting set, and then you're kind of doing this a little bit. It's almost like, okay, I want to hit a draw, so I'm just going to keep sliding this foot back to make sure that my swing path is a little bit more into out. And then on the first one, you were a little bit too far to the right, and then, I don't know, your maybe body just kind of knew that, and it kind of came over, but in your brain you were thinking, okay, I've got to draw it, so I want to make sure that face does this. So that's over and left. And then on the second one, you're like, okay, I can't roll my hands. That's not, I don't ever want to do that. That's just a bad oops, right? But then when you did this part, you actually did it both really well. You kind of came right from down the line, and then you didn't roll. And then you look up and your ball's going right at the target, and you think you pushed it, which would mean you would have to do a swing fix. But really, there's no swing fix needed. You just need to aim straight, right? So what I want to figure out first is let's get an alignment stick out and set it down so that we're not worried about alignment at all. Right, so we got a long distance target out there at that white flag, right? So I like to put the alignment stick really halfway between, right, toes, because I want it at my target.
Yeah.
And I know my feet are probably going to be a little bit left of it, and if I want to hit a draw, I know I can go this way a little bit. But I want you to practice now, just hitting some shots down this line, because once you look down this line, I think you're going to see that you've probably been aiming, a little bit too far to the right. So I'm going to straighten that up. All right, so now look up at that white flag. Probably feels more like it's over at the purple. Yeah? Okay. All right. So when you made that particular swing, you did kind of come over the top a little bit. But it probably didn't feel much different than what you've been doing. So the reason for that is you've been aiming right, and you've been, even on some of your good shots probably, coming over it a little bit. So let's work on getting that alignment square. Then swing back and stop on this one. Good, right? So just be relaxed here, right? I don't want you to have like a ton of like structure and stiffness. So do your grip again, right? And I'm going to take the club away from you. Let go. Okay, now just stand balanced. See how your posture changed?
Yeah.
All right, now put the club back in. See how you reached out on your toes, then you dropped your knees, you were on your toes, you bent your knees more. So let's take the club out and go into your setup. All right, now I want you to swing your arms to the top, both of them together. So pretend like you're holding a club. There, right? So if you're just swinging your arms, they're going to go to here.
Yeah.
Right? So if I put like your head cover right here, so swing back and stop. That's better. Now come down and start over. All right, now your goal is to hit this, go like that with your arm swing. So swing back and then just rip through it. Yep, you can hit it hard. Good. Do it again. Good. So you're just swinging your arms, right?
Yeah.
Now you can get a shoulder turn, hip turn, all that kind of stuff. Right? Now swing your arms up a little higher. Yeah, there you go. See how free that feels? Do that again. Good. Keep it going. Yep, keep it going. Yep. Right, now you notice what's going on your feet. You're starting to shift the right foot back a little bit. Yep, so let's kind of square it up. There you go. Good. Right, so what's happening when you're swinging your arms is you're swinging them balanced, right? In school, sometimes they have a center of gravity image, you know, like center of gravity of an object or center of gravity of a person. So for me, center of gravity is like right in the middle of my belly button, like but right in the middle, right? And then what'll happen is when you do this, that little center of gravity ball kind of moves outside, right? Because you've got, and I don't know for a fact, but let's say this arm weighs 10 pounds, this is 10 pounds. I just took 20 pounds and shifted it, right? Now, the club only is about like 1.5 pounds, right? So when you swing it, now you've got like, let's call it 2 pounds. Now you've got 22 pounds that you're swinging back and forth over here. That's what we want to keep as a constant, right? So the path, the arm swing, the way it sequences with your hips, your legs are allowed to move, but they shouldn't be like pulling the arms necessarily. They should be facilitating the arms, because you're not always going to want to hit a full leg action shot.
Yeah.
Right? So you got a 40-yard pitch, you want to be able to just do it with your hands and arms. You don't want to like crunch your legs through it. By the time you pull up into a driver, sure, you can throw everything at it. But now that you've just hit that head cover back and forth, do some practice swings. But swing this. Swing your arms. Don't swing the club head. Don't guide the club head. Swing everything back and forth. And just let a few shots go. Good. Yeah. Just keep it going, because what you're going to feel different is that like an old school pro, like an Eddie Marins, and then we're talking like pros that were teachers of players like Jack Nicklaus and that era. That, they talked about like swinging the handle of the club versus swinging the head, and you're still stuck just a little bit in what you were working on before, which was kind of stiffening the arm, stiffening the wrist. Those things kind of feel like they're good because it feels like you have some kind of control. Yeah. But ultimately what happens is when you start clamping down and trying to steer the club, your outcome is actually less controlled than if you just let it go. And mentally, if you think about a tournament, the last thing you tell yourself over the shot might be something like let it go. Yeah. Just trust it. Swing free. Well, if you've built your whole swing around guiding and not swinging free, and then mentally you tell yourself to swing free, those two things don't match up, right? So I want you to swing your arms and just let the club follow. You can have control over the club, but just swing your arms back and forth, don't control the club as much. There you go.
Feel more of a lag.
Yeah, there's a little more lag. Yeah, the timing becomes kind of more instinctive and natural. Yeah, just enjoy it for a minute. We'll let this go for a little while, because this is something I want you to be able to do, is swing your arms, not try to control the club. Yeah. Okay, now as you do that, your arms should kind of follow a little bit of a hip turn, right? So your arms should kind of come back into the inside, don't guide it back on a straight line, just swing it, right? So if it comes back a little inside, that's fine, because your hips are turning that way. There you go. So what you want to feel is that you've swung it up naturally, and now it's already in that place where you can just smash it down, and you don't actually have to think about where to smash it. It just kind of returns right on the same path. Because if you've taken it up to a point, your downswing is going to take a millisecond. If you're trying to find that on the way down, that's probably what's happening with the driver. So we just want to swing it up and then just let it go. There you go, that's better. That was really good. That might be your best one today there.
Yeah.
That was good. Now, what did that feel like?
I felt like it's weird. It's all just like this loopy, free, like if you're swinging a towel almost.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing there, just kind of swinging and the club's lagging through and kind of coming through.
Yeah. The club's just kind of following.
It's just there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of like the club's, you're swinging the club now.
Yeah.
Like the club's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want you to let's do this in reverse now. So as you swing the next one, I want you to squeeze really tight with your hands. Right? So I want you to swing your arms like we were doing, but squeeze really tight with your hands. Right? So it doesn't mean like loose and wobbly. It means swing your arms freely. So what happens down in here is we can get like too floppy and too wobbly. I'm not saying you need to squeeze super tight the whole time, but just know that we're not swinging our wrists floppy back and forth, although that's what it kind of part of it felt like. What you're trying to do is from your shoulders, you're trying to swing your arms, but still have so right here, there's enough pressure in your grip so you know exactly where that face is, right? You know whether it's straight, you know whether it's 1 degree open, 1 degree closed, you know where all that is happening. And we want that level of precision, but what we don't want to do is get all too floppy, right? Yeah, so you got to know where the club is, so raise it up in the air, right? Just hover it, right? Go like this for me, kind of wiggle your hands around so you know where the face is, right? Now, once you know where the face is, set it back down, and then make sure it's in your fingers in such a way that you know exactly where that face is. I think of like if I had to paint a picture, like let's say this was my paintbrush, or you think of like a calligraphy pen that has like a flat edge to it, and and I wanted to write my name, I would go like this. I know exactly where the face is. Now in calligraphy, it never moves, right? The trick to calligraphy is don't swivel your wrist, right? So you don't swivel your wrist, you move your arm like this, and you know exactly where that face is. So when you're holding the club, you know exactly where the face is. It's not a lot of pressure, but you know where it is. Now, once you know where the face is, then you just swing your arms, and the face won't twist and move around. Does that make sense? Yeah. So kind of hold the club in position. Then you're not trying to open or close the face. You just kind of swing it back and forth. How'd that one feel? Yeah. So we want some control over the face, but it's not a control like I'm trying to control it in motion. It's control because it's not moving. So if the face never really moves, if you just hold it in such a way and then you swing your arms back and forth, but the face never actually is moving, everything's gonna come off really straight. There you go. Alright, so I'm going to hold the shaft on this one, and I'm going to feel whether or not you are doing anything with the face. So do your grip. Alright, now hold it right here. Now wiggle it. Alright, I can feel that.
Yep.
Right? So now go back super slow. So now see right here, you took your hands away, but you're actually doing this just a little. Right? So as you go back away, I'll show you. Here, that's nothing. You're doing nothing. You're doing nothing. You're doing nothing. You're doing nothing. You're going up. You're coming back. Again, right now, right here, you're rolling it in just a little. Right? So don't do nothing. You're doing nothing. 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 So it's a swing the club and do nothing. All right, so if this is doing something and this does nothing, then we can now control everything by what we do with our arms. So just try hit a few without doing a single thing with your hands. Don't try to control it one way or the other. Yeah. Makes sense?
Yeah.
So here, grab your putter. Alright, now swing your putter back and forth.
Like this? Or
Yeah, like a putt, like you're putting. Right, so now if you're doing nothing here,
Yep.
right, so go ahead and go back real slow. Right, so this does nothing, right?
Yeah.
Now, if it has a baby arc to it, fine. But what you're not trying to do is you're not trying to do this, right? You're not trying to control it, nor are you trying to move it. You're basically doing nothing. And then you can imagine the precision that happens down here,
Yeah.
right? So if you did nothing, and the flat grip here is a good gauge for that. If you just swung your arms back and forth, and you're not doing anything like that with the face, then the face isn't ever going to be crooked.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're not doing anything with a putter on purpose, try to do nothing with an iron. So go ahead and make one go 10 feet, 20 feet, just like a putt, and just swing your arms, but keep the face kind of, yeah. So it's not a active control thing. It's almost like I'm gonna keep it. I like to say stay where you start, right? So if you start in one position, just stay there. Swing your arms without moving it around. Right, now at any point in this, a little drill is, you should feel, oh, I'm trying to control it. I'm shutting it on the way back, I'm opening it on the way through, or I'm opening it and closing it. You just don't want either. You just want to feel like it's going back and forth, very neutral.
It's like a bump and run.
Yeah.
Just coming like this. Keeping your hands.
Yeah, your hands stay real quiet. There's no real need to kind of move it around. Right? Now a bump and run, just like you said there, is the absence of the second hinge.
Yeah.
Right? So a bump and run, just like a putt, is kind of like just straight. So then when you add the hinge, you have to unhinge. So that's the smash. So you load energy and then you unload energy. But while you're loading and unloading, you shouldn't be trying to do any twisting with the face. So as you go a little longer with each swing, kind of add an arm swing to it, create some hinge, And as you unhinge, just try to make sure that when that club is unhinging, it's just the weight, the heaviness. It wouldn't matter if you held it like this or like this. It's just the heaviness that accelerates. It's not, you're not trying to control the face. The face is going to be where it's going to go. So real kind of quiet, neutral. Yep. Mm-hmm. All right, so the in-between is always the most challenging. So you have super full swing. That's actually not that hard to do. Little bump and runs, that's not hard to do. It's the blended action in between, right? Especially when you're using a club like this. Is this your 8? 9. So you got your 9 and you're just swinging it. Swing it full now. There you go. All right, dead straight. So it's kind of like an absence of control, right? You're not controlling it, you're just keeping it in one position. Yeah. So what happens is when you hold it, it frees up your body. So what you're doing is the other way. You were stiffening your body, right? And then trying to control this open and closed. Whereas if you stiffen your wrist, it actually allows all this to free up. When this frees up, it feels really good, it's powerful, but your hands feel like they're now just that much more precise. So what did that one feel like? Yeah. What'd you do with your hands? You tried to do nothing though, right? So this is the whole purpose. We got to know what to blame, right? So if your arms are swinging over and your hands are rolling, that's 2 things, right? If your arms are swinging under and opening, that's 2 things. Well, we don't want the hands really having to do much responding. They're not very good. I mean, here's how it works, right? So let's say you drop it to the inside. Well, you're going to flip your hands over because your hands know, oh crap, ball's going way right, I need to correct. But if you've trained your hands to not be the secondary response, well then the ball goes pretty much where you swing it. So we don't want our hands really jumping in at the last second trying to do stuff. We just kind of want them to set up there. Let me show you when I do it. If I go back and forth like this, right, I know exactly kind of where the face is, right? Now, if I take my setup here, club face behind the ball, and I swing my arms back and forth, right? There was nothing that I did in that ball flight here that was going to make that ball go left or right. It was what I did here. So I just happened to swing that one perfectly straight and the ball came off straight. There was no change. But it shouldn't be like super tight. You know, think of like what it would take to, you know, use a calligraphy pen if you've ever used one before, even just tried to write really perfectly. The tighter you squeeze on the pen, the more your arm kind of gets locked up and you're like, I can't write anymore. So there's a precision that you have, but there's a relaxed state at the same time. Right, so you always ask yourself, did my hands mess me up? Yep, so the answer there would be no. So then what happened? You came a little over, right? So that probably means on the backswing, you kind of took the club back a little bit this way instead of just turning and letting your arms follow your hip turn. So as you go back, just turn, swing your arms up, and then just let it go. It's going to go where it's going to go. Just let it go. Good. So take a couple practice swings just right-handed. Right, so as you go back just with that right hand, just take the club back. Don't try to open it or close it. Just let it go where it's going to go. There you go. All right, do it slower. Right, so as you're holding it in those fingers, what's going on here, right? There shouldn't be, as you go back and forth, that you shouldn't feel a ton of turning or twisting. Right, either opening or closing. All right, so go back real slow. I'll show you. All right, so you got your right hand, it's coming back. So that don't do anything. Just swing your arm back, lift it up. Yep, throw it down over here, let it go. And right here, just let it go. Right, that way. Yep, now put two hands on there. Alright, now what I want you to feel is underneath that left thumb, you shouldn't feel this happening, right? So the job of the left thumb is to just kind of go back and forth and kind of stay on top of the shaft. It always stays on top. Right? It shouldn't feel like it's twisting one way or the other. So your left thumb kind of becomes your accuracy guide, right? That's what I feel like right here underneath my thumb. Go ahead and hold the club out in front of me. Just put it here, right? So you can feel that right away, right underneath the left thumb. It's like when you open up your iPhone, you have to take your thumb and you have to put it there. So don't put it over here, because then that doesn't give you as much feedback. You know, when you're putting your thumbprint in your iPhone first, put it in the middle, then you put it around the edges. Well, we want to say we don't want the thumb scanner to read all of this. We just want it to read dead center. Right? So if it reads dead center, the left hand's job is to kind of just go, oh, well, yeah, there's no twisting. That is a wonderful thing. If this is not doing this, that's huge. Then the right hand's job is to add the timing and the power. So when your left hand's on there, now that you're aware of this whole twisting thing, now I want the left hand to be your feedback tool. And then as you swing back and forth, throw the right hand, like we're talking about smashing it, smash it relative to this. So when you smash, don't smash in such a way that it opens that thumb or closes the thumb. Good. Because we have to have two things. We have to have control, or a face awareness. Club face awareness is what that is. Then we have to have power. So that's what we're doing, is we're saying, okay, if I can hinge up on that thumb, and that thumb's never really going to twist or roll, then this wrist isn't never doing this. It's always just kind of hinging and unhinging on the thumb. Then, if I throw power at it, while aware of this, it's way easier. How'd that feel?
Good.
Yeah. Is this all making sense? Yeah. I mean, we're kind of starting right from the beginning of everything. Phase 1 for you was just to not think so much and to just swing freely. Now what we're doing is we're saying, okay, now that you've kind of got past that, let's give you some little keys that are super important, right? That will help to control the ball flight. Because that's going to make a ton of sense when we get up here to the driver. Because your number one club that you can mess up with this is putter, right? If you're off by a quarter degree, half a degree, you're going to miss the cup at about 6 feet, right? Well, you're going to miss fairways with this club doing the exact same thing. Right? You can actually be a little off with the rest of the stuff in comparison to these two. So I'm going to let you hit for a minute. And we'll move up here after you hit this one to a 7-iron. Because all I want you to do is feel what's going on. Feel thumb and throw. And when you go back in the backswing, because you understand this part already, that one there was a little left, right? So you must have thrown it a little over. So use your left thumb to put you back here, right? So if the left thumb comes down, perfect, or down inside, or down over, again, you're going to feel here the pressure on that thumb. Right, so this is the guide for face, right here. As long as that thumb isn't wiggling, you're good. Then when you come back down, this is the feel for like inside, perfect, over the top. You're gonna feel it kind of through that arm. So once you get back up into here, you set that thumb underneath where it's supposed to be. When it's there, you add power, and you just don't do anything with that on the way through. It's the absence of movement that gives us the control. And again, it sounds like a lot, especially when you rewatch this video, but the truth of it is it's the simplest things that we can do. Right? It's not complicated stuff, but you have to feel it in order to have control. And we're not talking we want to hit a fairway and we want to hit a green. We're talking we want to hole out from 175 and we want to hit it on the center stripe of the fairway. The stuff that we're talking about, this is like 1/4 of 1 degree level control. That's what we want. We want such precision that we don't ever hit it crooked. So what do those feel like?
The first two felt good. The other one, it felt like it was more this way.
Yeah.
over the top.
So go back to the top and stop. Right? Where's your thumb?
This way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, so take your right hand off the club. Yep, and just hold it in the air with your thumb. Yeah. Right? So, yeah, so it just has to sit here. Right? If it sits here, then, and it should sit a little, like we're not playing golf vertical. You're playing golf on a little bit of a plane. So it should be here. Right? But definitely not here. It should be just neutral, right? Because then if it's neutral, this thumb is sitting here. It hasn't done any of that. So when you take the club back to whatever swing plane is appropriate for that club, so what is a 7? So that's better there, yeah. So you didn't do anything. So as you go back, you want this left wrist to kind of just hinge on its thumb that way. And then when you throw it through, it's the same thing. It shouldn't be moving around. Yeah. Is my hope for you is you get to the top of your swing and it just feels like this. It doesn't feel one way or the other. It just feels neutral, right? So I'm going to hold it right here for the camera. Right, so you get to the top and it just feels like that, right? This is what's called anatomical neutral, right? I can balance it under my thumb and on my fingers, and my wrist isn't burdened. Like, that's not good. That's not good. That is, I can't hold that. My wrist holds the club really well here, right? And it also is relative to the face, right? So if I'm just going up and down, and there really isn't any tweaking or twisting going on, number one, it's going to protect my wrist. I'm not going to get a wrist injury, right? Because that's the way my wrist is supposed to hinge, back this way. Once it's back here, then I throw. And then the trick is, once you throw, this wrist, this thumb, is pretty much just kind of going down. It's not coming and bowing or going under. It's just straight. It's weird because you feel like, okay, if I'm here and I just throw down, how's the face going to get back to straight? But that's where everything kind of syncs up, body turn, right? So once you get it up there, just stop for a second and just feel where that thumb is. Right? Once it's up there, just throw it back the other way and see what happens. That's fine. Yeah. Just do that a couple of times. Pull it back and just throw it back down. There you go. Alright, so go like this for me. Right, hinge it on that thumb. Right? Then as you turn away, hinge it on the thumb, and then throw it. Good. Yep, so big tall swing, hinge, throw. Good. Right, so now we just look at what's going on with the ball flight, and we decide, okay, well, is that an early throw? Is that a late throw? Or where's my timing there? Right, so it's going a little right. So the throw is a little late. So try to throw it a little earlier. There you go. So straighten it up. And remember, early, late isn't always about speed. Like going earlier doesn't mean swing faster. It just means kind of time it. Mm-hmm. So your ability to control face is under the left thumb. Your ability to control timing is kind of what you do with the right hand, kind of hinging and throwing with the right hand. And then direction is now going to be more like where you smashed. So that one there, you must have smashed a little over. Yeah, so go inside, kind of swing inside and smash more from the inside out. There you go. So you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did it. You did it too much, but that's what we want. Is we want to be able to say, okay, it's like that pushing a kid on a swing analogy.
Yeah.
Right? You pull the kid over here, push him that way, the kid's going to swing left. Pull the kid over here, push him, the kid's going to swing right. So if you've got thumb for face, right hand for power and timing, and then you've got, okay, this is the path that I'm going to throw it on. It's kind of the only thing you have to think about is I'm going to throw it on this path, throw it on the path, and then the thumb isn't going to allow the face to jump in and mess anything up. Good. What happened on that one?
Over the top.
And then what happened?
And then shut the face.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is where that sequence kind of comes in with, what starts like with your legs, all that kind of stuff, right? So you're going to make sure when you swing, we know that hitting it over there is going to be bad. Probably worse than hitting it over here, right? So let's groove that swing a little more in to out. So just feel like you're pulling the club a little more in and then throwing it a little bit more out. Yeah. Because we're okay with playing a little draw, so if we have a little bit more of a bias, in to out, then that'll produce with a straight face, so it should produce a little draw for us.
Is that just smashing late?
Yes. Yeah. So go back and stop on this one. There. Now where are you going to throw it? Yeah, down in. You're going to feel like you're throwing it more behind to kind of send it a little bit more out. There you go. And I was just late. There you go. That was a good one. All right, so it's the right hand is active in the in figuring out when that throw is. The left thumb should be starting to kind of relax. It's not you're not trying to control the face with the left thumb. It's almost like the left thumb is just like a little feedback mechanism. If you feel it wiggling around, then you just didn't do it quite right. So you should be throwing the club pretty straight without really any movement going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you feel like you're understanding the thumb thing, right? You're understanding timing of the throw, right? So what's kind of messing up your timing is your leg work, right? It's kind of like what you talked about right from the beginning. You're like, I think my legs are moving too much, right? So when you do this drill, let's hit this thing again. Okay, just you got your thumb. So I want you to kind of hold your left thumb with your right hand, right? And then as you go back and forth, your thumb's just kind of doing this. There's not really twisting around, right? So do that again. Go ahead and hit this. Right, now look at your leg work. Do it again. Okay, now don't move your feet at all. Just hit this with your arms. So you see how you shifted your hips? There you go. So swing. I'm going to hold it in the middle. You try to hit it both ways, backwards and forwards. Now use your hips a little to swivel. Don't shift left and right, just turn. Yeah, there you go. Keep going. This is what your swing's supposed to feel like, right? So what it was doing is it was kind of shifting left and right, it was shifting, right? So just spin your hips, your belt buckle, right? So your belt buckle and your hands are kind of working together. Right, now you're going back to shift. There you go. There you go. Spin your hips aggressively if you want, both ways. There you go. See how they kind of work together? Your hips and your arms are working together. Now do 20 swings back and forth like that. Just keep your hips. Use your hips, don't use your feet. Hips, arms, hips, arms. There you go. Yep, so take a little wider stance. Yep, I'm going to hold it up here. You're not going to hit me, so go ahead and go back and forth. Yep, spin your hips, don't shift your weight. There. Right, so I'm going to have you turn like you're going to hit toward your bag, so stand right here. And turn this way like you're going to hit that way, so the camera's straight on. And then go ahead and do that exercise. So don't shift, swivel. There you go, that's a swivel. And just keep it going. You go wider stance. Just keep going. Right, this is a great exercise for you to do, because what I want you to feel is your right pocket and your left pocket kind of work that way. Right, now for a video's sake, do one the other way. Kind of what you were doing before, kind of shifting and sliding. Yeah, so now do the swivel. There you go. Right, now the way this is going to work practically is I want you to start going back to what we did early on and kind of just deactivate the legs a little bit. And then when you start activating them, just make sure that they're going here, not like here, and kind of slide into it. There you go, good. Alright, so your arms should feel like this thumb should feel like it goes thumb up, and your hips should swivel. Once your hips are swiveled and the thumb's up, then you throw back down and you swivel out of the way. So thumb up and swivel, and then throw down and swivel. There you go. So now they're kind of synced up.
Yeah.
Good. Yep. So now I'm going to video one from this side, do the other one, where you kind of slide your hips through. Now you see how it's relative to the timing. If you're trying to throw with some, level of consistency, but then you slide once, you don't slide, then it's going to change. But if you just swivel out of the way, so at the exact moment, so do your setup, swing back and stop. At the exact moment that you have fully thrown the energy and you collide with the ball, that hip is cleared. So it's like up and then smash. And when this hip is left and this hand is smashed, boom. That's what you're trying to kind of sync up. There you go. So you're allowed to use your legs. You just got to swivel your hips rather than slide. All right, so you pick it up and then you kind of pivot smash. There you go. How's that feel?
Good.
Does that feel doable?
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of talking and explaining for this video. Is it all making sense? Is it complicated, or do you think it's...
I think it'll become easier as the more I do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, so get your thumb up to the top. Right, so swing up and stop. Right? Now right here, you should feel like, oh, I'm clear for takeoff at this point. You should feel like, okay, I just kind of smash and then pivot my hip out of the way at the same time. Yep. Now you got to remember, the pivot of the hip is just to facilitate what the arms are doing, right? So we don't want the hip pivot to pull the club left, right? It's going to do that a little bit, but we don't want the hip to go, we're not trying to go here and then use this pivot to pull everything left. The hips do this so that the arms can do this. All right? So the hips are just getting out of the way. So the hips kind of go this way and get the arms in the right position. You smash down, the hips kind of get out of the way on the way through. So as you swing your arms up and down, just be aware aware that you're not trying to really unload with the hips. You're just trying to kind of kick them out of the way. There you go. So all the speed still comes from the arms. All right, that's what I'm trying to say is you're not speeding with the legs. You're just clearing the legs so that the arms can accelerate. Good. Yeah, we still want it to be all arms, but now we're just training the hips to be kind of more of a partner with the arms. So we don't want them to feel like they're going together. They kind of go separate directions. The hips go around, the arms go up. But they do work together, but not in the same plane. So the arms go up and down, hips go round and around. Yep, so that one there, the hips went left, and then the arms followed left. So as the hips go left, make sure the arms just come straight, like straight down, smash down. There you go. So go back real slow. Right, so the hips turn, so go ahead and turn the hips, and then the arms kind of do their thing up here. And then the arms come down, the hips go that way, but the arms come back up again. Yeah, there you go. So you just got to make sure the arms are coming back up, not following the legs. There you go, that's better. It's looking better. How's it feeling?
A lot better.
A lot better?
More controllable.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you're starting to kind of feel the timing that's relative. So we got to tighten up the club face control, and it's not by gripping tighter, it's just by feeling it in that thumb. As long as that thumb's not moving around, it's going to go straight. Like, you don't have to make a ball go straight. It's going to go straight. So what I want you to do is just get real aggressive with that throw and test whether or not your wrists do any bending, right? So it's like, okay, here's the thumb. It's set.
Yep.
I'm going to take this end. I'm going to just chuck it as hard as I want. and I'm going to test whether or not it does any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So pull it back, load it up on the thumb, and then just chuck it. Good. Now that went really straight. I think the wind maybe pushed it a yard left. So just keep throwing it. And then let's just test the quality of your grip. See if it's going to stay there. That was also pretty straight. Did it fade a little, or
Yeah, cut.
maybe a little bit?
5 yards probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So swing the arms up, throw them back down. There you go. That was good. Good hip turn on that one. What did that one do?
That one drew like maybe a yard or 2.
Yeah, just a yard or 2 draw. What about that one?
Cut 2 yards.
2-yard cut. Okay. It was like a 6-inch cut. That's pretty good there. All right, now grab your driver. We've been hitting balls for over an hour and 20 minutes. So we're going to take a break after you hit a few drives. But I want just to see what the driver does with the same stuff that we're doing. Because like I said, we're not trying to hit a fairway or a green. We're trying to hit the flagstick, right?
Yeah.
Or the center sprinkler of the center of every fairway. So what we want is just the sense. We nobody's going to ever achieve what I just said, but we want to have the sense that we just know where the face is, so well that when we do what we're supposed to do, it's just going to come off straight. There really isn't going to be any curve to it. So just let it go. Don't even think. Just try to repeat what you just did there with the 7-iron. Good. So what'd you feel? Don't think about what the ball did. What did you feel in your hands, in your thumb?
Maybe opened it up a little bit.
Your left thumb rolled open slightly? Okay. So just be aware of the thumb. That's all I want you to do here is throw it and let your thumb give you the feedback. What did that one do?
That was good.
Straight, right? I mean, what'd you feel in the thumb? Any movement at all?
No, that one didn't.
Yeah. What about that one?
Perfect.
Same. Perfect. So usually what happens is we, like we've talked before, we have these like old firing patterns.
Yeah.
So if you get back here and you do this, then you're like, okay, well that's a different pattern. Then you either do this or you slide. Then what has to happen is the wrist just the wrist went from perfect to not perfect, and then somehow it's got to get back.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is it never really gets back the same way. So if we never move it off perfect, if it always stays perfect, then we're always going to be here. We may not be dead on every time, but we're going to have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want you to feel like, is as you go back with that left thumb, where does it load? And then how can you throw it? Mm-hmm. So I talked for a minute there to purposely stop you from the perfect groove that you were in. What happened there?
That one, I felt that.
Did you? So go back and stop. Where's your thumb?
Cut it right there.
Right? So just do that a bunch. Go back and check it, check it, check it. How's that feel? Right? So once it's there, you should feel like, oh, okay, once it's here, I can now throw it. Yep, so what happened there?
That was good.
Yeah. So these little practice drill, like the little pre-shot routine, you can definitely do that. Go back, feel it on the thumb. Once it's on the thumb, then you feel like, oh, okay, it's going to be straight. Now all I need to do is just throw it. What do you think? Ask yourself the question. So say like thumb, what did you feel on that one, right? What did your thumb feel? At the top of the backswing, was there any indication?
At the bottom, it felt like.
There you go, right? So it wasn't something you felt in the backswing.
No, it was good right here, and then it was like almost like I went like this.
Yeah.
Hit it on the heel.
Yeah, because you slid.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, so you didn't turn through it, you kind of slid into it. Yeah, so set it and turn and throw. Yeah. So what happened there?
That one that had an on that one.
Yeah, so you did it, you turned and threw, but you just threw a tiny bit late. Right, so go back and set, right, and then how are you going to throw? Right, you're going to throw sooner there, yeah, and then just kind of turn out of the way as you throw it. Good. That was better, right?
Little.
What did it do? Fade just a little?
Yeah, it cut and started right.
Yeah, it started just a little right, and then just cut just a little bit. Right, so now what we're doing is we're creeping into the old setup with the driver. Right, so you're playing it way forward, you're leaning way behind, and then as you're clearing your hips, you're trying to kind of launch it up in the air. Right, so this is kind of what I thought was happening when you said you're hitting your irons good, but your driver not so good. It's because your approach is different. I'll show you. All right, so we're going to record there. You can just watch from here. Right, so here's your 7-iron. And regardless of what you were doing, your attack angle, all that kind of stuff, you were getting good compression, you were hitting the ball more solidly, even though today we've refined this, right? This is just giving you a feedback mechanism. But when you set up to an iron and you set up right in here and you're like, okay, I got this, right? Then you turn, you throw, and you just kind of let the hips kind of clear out of the way, finish up here, right? Now, what about this setup? So let's say I go here and here, right? This resembles the two, right? So if I was kind of here and I did the same thing, it would match. But where you're at is you're kind of like back in here now, right? So now what's happening is you have to basically change kind of the way you go down and through it. So now, you're hanging back, you've kind of missed the timing of it. You've got your 9 degrees set to neutral. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it 2 degrees. Do you have your wrench in your bag?
Yeah.
Let's change it. So we're going to use the driver setting as kind of a training aid for now, but it's also going to get you back in the fairway because we don't want your swing being so dramatically different.
Yeah.
Right? Because here, come over here, set up with a 7-iron to that ball on a tee just like you did your driver. Right? Yeah. But even more so. So go ahead and hit it right off the tee. Right, and it doesn't feel like that one there. You actually did a pretty good job of making it feel like on the ground.
Yeah.
But you definitely wouldn't hit your 7-iron like you hit your driver, or the way you were starting to hit your driver. The first few swings, you were kind of doing the same thing, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up in a draw +2, right? So now I'm going to have you tee it super low, and I'm going to have you basically just try to hit your driver just like your 7-iron. Right, so when you look down, it's going to look like it's got more loft than you're used to. So that means it's going to be okay if you play it back in your stance. All right, it's going to be okay if you keep your hands slightly ahead. Right, so now grab your 7-iron again. Now set up to tee that ball lower like a par 3 for me. Good. All right, now I want you to set up to your 7-iron as if you're on a par 3. And then you can hit this one, kind of check your thumb and then hit it. Good. Right, now leave it basically teed about that high and then hit your driver off that same tiny tee. Yeah. So go a little more narrow, stand a little, yeah, play the ball a little more in the middle. Yeah, and then just kind of hit through it just like you did your 7-iron. Feels weird, huh? Yeah. So basically what's been going on is you've been setting up, leaning back, setting back, launching, trying to launch it up in the air. I want you to kind of neutralize your setup. We need at this point, especially since you have a tournament in a few days, we need tee it lower. Tee it there. That's where you're going to play from. All right? There you go. Today when you go play, that's where I want you to tee it. And then just feel like you set up and hit down on it even, right? So just hit down like an iron, try to compress it. You're going to raise the club up like an iron. You're going to throw down like an iron. You're going to kind of time it more like an iron. Good. Yeah. So go ahead and release it a little earlier, right? Because we know a cut's going to be a little bit of a later release. So as you hit these, I'm going to adjust TrackMan to a different color. I'm going to call it your 2-wood instead of your driver. Yeah, play it more back in your stance. There you go. So you're going to throw down and pivot out of the way just like an iron. Better. There you go. Yep. So play it back in your stance and then just kind of raise it up. There you go. It's better. Now, does that feel closer to an iron?
Yeah.
Good. All right, so I'm going to have you hit, I don't know, I got to get maybe 5 or 6 green dots here on the screen. And then we'll look at the numbers. That was pure right there. That was a good swing. How'd it feel?
Really good.
Again, more similar to the iron, right? Yeah, that's better setup. Yeah. Play it back. Like compress it. Like feel like you're able to kind of turn through and throw it. Yeah, there you go. That's all right. All right, so now your hips are learning to turn
Yeah.
because you're playing the ball back. Makes sense? So do your setup here. Play it off your right foot, like straight off your right foot. Right, now the only way to hit this off of the back foot would be to like hang back and turn out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? Now play it outside your front foot. The only way to hit this would be to slide into it and then turn. Right?
Yeah.
So what I picture is like this is like a hinge on a door. Right? So the door sits like this and it opens and closes. Right? Well, your swing door hinge is basically that belt loop.
Okay.
Right? So this belt loop right here, so watch from right here. Right? So here's the hinge. So this is where we go back, we open the door, and then we pivot, and that's where it closes. Now, that will happen athletically when you throw a ball, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing, right? And you watch a javelin thrower, they come in with the javelin, they get to here, that hip kind of does this, and then so there's a pivot location right here. So what happens is when you're playing it way up front, you've got to bring the pivot location, the door jamb, you've got to bring it over and then turn it. And then that's kind of causes problems because you've got to slide and then pivot. So what you want to do here is you want to load, throw and pivot, and when you throw and pivot, it's all kind of happening right around that where that belt loop is right there. There. Right? So let's take a peek at these real quick. Alright, so those green ones is the last few swings. The purple is before we were kind of talking about setup and changing the driver setup. So this last one here was 102 miles an hour. And so I'm going to go to this setting, my table setting, and we'll compare them. I'll expand it. Right? So what we're looking at is purple and green.
Okay.
Right? So your purple was 98. Your green was 102. So I'm going to go back here and check and see if we have any anomalies in there on the other one. So here. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of this guy. It's probably a low one. Purple, that was 102. 103, 104. Greens, 103, 104. I wonder why it said 90. Oh, it's the other purple. I'm looking at the wrong purple. Oh, I know why. Because you hit some irons in there and it grabbed them all. So anyway, let's go back here to this one. It averaged them because you hit like 2 irons. So I'm going to delete that one. Yeah, there you go. All right, so there's your 2 clusters. We'll go back to the table. All right, so 102, 102. So club head speed stayed the same. Then if you look at ball speed, actually got faster when we moved it back in your stance and actually added loft and teed it lower. Your spin rate actually dropped by a tiny bit. Your carry number increased, and so did your total.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, look at your face to path number. Granted, I didn't set up TrackMan perfectly, but still, this is a face to path number, which means wherever you set up and swung relative to face, look at that. You were 4.1 degrees open doing the up setup, and you were only 0.4.
Yeah.
So the tolerance level came way, way down. And look at the other ones, that's really good too, right? So your 7-iron was only a 0.3, and then you only had a 1 degree on your wedges. So since we started kind of working on thumb and face,
Yeah.
the relative combination of path and face number just came way down, right? So, and look at your launch angle, went down just 1.5 degrees. So we don't, and then the bigger picture, the whole reason why we're doing this is because when you're up here, right, you go hit a driver, boom, and then you come down in the middle of the fairway, and then you're like, oh, I can't do that with a wedge. Then you go here to a wedge, and then you come back to a driver, and then you're going back and forth. So at least for now, there's some of that, like optimizing everything. Sure, hitting up on it's better than hitting down, you know, spin, all that kind of stuff is important, but not for winning tournaments. I mean, if you look at most of the guys that are super accurate, they're not all hitting up on it like 7 degrees and spinning it at 1,500 RPMs. That's more like long drive optimization. So with your driver right now, it's a 9. We turned it up to an 11. We closed the face just a little bit, tee it way down, like probably even lower than this, probably about like that height. So when you set the driver on the ground, it's basically matched up with the middle, right? And then when you get set over it, you're trying to make the same patterns, the same pivots, the same throws. So then it doesn't matter if you switch to a 5-wood or driving iron or driver, it's all the same. Yeah, so I mean, even that one, it's like, yeah, it wasn't super solid, slightly mishit, but it's in the fairway, you know, a right edge of the fairway. All right, so check your thumb. That's going to be important. Where's the thumb? Is it moved? Is it wiggled? Is it twisted? If it's straight, then you're clear for takeoff, right? Then you kind of do your throw pivot. Right, so what'd you feel? A little over, and then what did the thumb feedback? What was the thumb feedback?
I didn't really feel anything.
No?
Yeah, maybe like a little close, but
Yeah.
just because the ball went left.
Right.
I don't really feel anything different on that one.
Yeah. So feel. So what happened then was when you threw it over here, and then the thumb probably just went to neutral on the other side. But the problem was it went over here and then ended up neutral over there. It wasn't like you threw it inside and then spun it over. Yeah. So go back and stop. Right, now where's the throw going to happen? Yeah. Yeah, so just let it go. Good. Right, so there's a nice draw shape. Yeah. I mean, that's what your eyes sees as well, right?
Yeah.
Yep, so let's see what your numbers were on that one. That was a 101.4 club head speed, 2,900 RPMs. Let's see, landing angle was 39. Ball speed was 149, right? So once your club head speed gets up, as long as we, yeah, because you're trying to get the feeling. So we've only got a few balls left. Hit all of these super hard. Yep, there you go. So that was a 108 club head speed. And this should feel like you're hitting a hard 7-iron. You know, it shouldn't feel like you're trying to hit up on it or anything. Just make that same good swing. Right, so see how you lost your balance?
Yeah.
So what we're going to blame when you come off of a shot and you've hit this shot, so we're always looking for these feedback things. The thumb's going to tell you if you spun your wrist around. If you didn't spin your wrist open or closed, then you can't blame something in the wrist, right? So then you have to blame something else. You go, okay, well, what did I feel? Well, I came through and I lost my balance. If you lose your balance, it's because you slid first and then tried to rotate. So what you want is hips to pivot, you know, without slide, which probably means the ball position's too far forward if that slide is happening. So bring it back. Give me a quick pivot and a hard throw. There you go. Nice. Because remember, here you go. Here's a few more. We'll finish up with these 4 and then we'll take a break. So the pivot gives the arms the freedom to throw, right? It doesn't seem quite right. It seems like if you slid into it or threw your weight into it, you'd hit it further. But you're not hitting it with your hips. Kind of smashing it with your arms. Your hips just clear out. There you go. Really good. How'd that one feel? Good. Yeah, I mean, that was a really clean pivot and a really good throw. Kind of hopped up out of that one, right? So that's when the hips try to help the power. So go back and stop. Throw the arms down. Nope. Don't pivot first. Throw, pivot. It's like it's all kind of happens kind of together. Go a little more narrow stance. You're not trying to lean back and hit up on it. Yeah, so you give it a hard throw and just make your hip turn just a pivot. Yeah, that's better. See the difference? Yeah. Or feel the difference? You'll see it on video. So what happens when you throw into your legs, or sorry, when your legs try to help the whole thing, they do like this thing, right? So what you're gonna see on video that's different is this. And it's going to be hard to see because it's not very easy to see. But you get set, right? And then on the first one, you're kind of a little bit more here, right? And then you're kind of like do this with the hips and throw, and then all this kind of gets off balance. The better one, what it looks like, is more like kind of like what Adam Scott looks like, where he gets to here, his hips kind of pivot, but his arms go, you know, so the arms go through and the hips are here, as opposed to the hips kind of going like that. So well, I want your arms to be fast, but don't use your hips for speed. Use your hips to kind of just give your arms more space. Really hit it hard with your arms. That's better. That's much better. So that last one was here. I'm going to try to get it on, right? This is not bragging for any reason, but just to show you, just to try to capture on video. It's hard to do this with the screen. There we go. All right, so you can see your different clusters of shots. That was the last one. So, is this all making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. we just have to go through it in phases, right? Because for you, here's how we organize it. We'll summarize with this. This hand is doing the throw or the smash. Right? This arm is smashing. The reason why we're smashing with this arm is this is clearly the arm that you can smash best with, right? You can also smash hard and slow, right? So just like throwing a ball, I can throw it hard or I can throw it easy, right? So we're not always smashing it or throwing at maximum speed. Now, to connect, we don't need to connect the face necessarily to the power.
Yeah.
What we need to do is connect the face to the feedback thumb. That's what we'll call it, right? The feedback thumb, so that when the feedback thumb is going back and forth like this, and it's not really doing, there's no like twisting or rolling or turning, if just like in putting, if that thumb is going straight back and forth and there's no wiggle, we're in good shape. That's like, makes me feel so much better because I'm not doing any of this. I don't have to worry about controlling this at 100 miles an hour trying to figure it out. Once it's on there, then I just figure out, okay, how do I throw? Right? Now what we're learning is that there's a throw that's connected to here. Well, if you do a slide throw, well, that's probably going to change the way you throw. So we don't want to slide throw. We want to pivot and turn, right? Then we want to throw and pivot out of the way. And what's really important is, even though we're thinking about pivot, we don't pull pivot. Like, we're not using this connection here to pull the arm through. We're going up here. We are clearing, but we're throwing independently.
Yeah.
We're not connecting it up. Make sense? All right, let's take a break. Good job.